The sun never rose fully on the day Adama was born. In the village of Umuokiri, nestled deep within the forest of Anambra, the dawn was covered in an ominous blanket of thick mist. Birds did not sing. The goats refused to graze. And the village dogs barked endlessly at the winds that blew in from the east, winds that smelled faintly of blood and bitter herbs. Inside the thatched hut of Mama Ejima, a woman screamed in pain as midwives surrounded her. Sweat poured from her skin like rain. Her belly pulsed unnaturally, and her legs trembled beneath her. But the strange part was not her labor. It was that she had been pregnant for 13 full moons, long past the time any woman should still be carrying a child. "It is not a child," whispered Mama Yugo, the oldest midwife. "It is something else, something sent by the gods, or their enemies." But Mama Ejima would hear none of it. This was her first child after 10 years of waiting, fasting, and bathing in sacred rivers. Her husband had died 2 planting seasons ago, and this child was her only hope of legacy. With one final push that shook the walls of the hut, the baby came forth. And then the screaming stopped, not just in the hut, in the entire village. Because lying on the mat, covered in afterbirth, was a baby girl, clutching a live black snake in her left hand. The snake was coiled around her wrist like a bracelet, hissing softly, its forked tongue licking the air. The baby did not cry. She opened her eyes, which were as bright as moonlight, and smiled. Mama Ejima fainted. The midwives scattered in terror, except for Mama Yugo, who fell to her knees and began to chant under her breath, her eyes wide with horror. "She carries the mark of the Edayaju," she murmured, "the forbidden child, the one born with the spirit of the forest serpent. The gods have returned judgment to Umuokiri." By evening, the news had spread like wildfire. The Igui summoned his chief priests, and they demanded the baby be brought before the Ofo shrine. The council of elders debated long into the night whether the child should be killed or spared. But something stopped them: the rain of blood. As twilight fell, red rain poured from the sky. Real blood, not water. It stained the thatched roofs, painted the trees, and left the villagers screaming in terror. That night, Mama Ejima named the baby Adama, meaning daughter of beauty. She hid her child in the shrine of her late husband, refusing to hand her over to the Igui's guards. But deep in the forest, something older than man stirred from its slumber. Something ancient, something cursed. And it whispered one name. 3 years passed, and Adama grew. Unlike other children her age, she never crawled. She slithered. By the time she was 2, she could speak clearly, not in the sweet, babbling way toddlers did, but with words too heavy for a child's tongue. She never laughed. She never played with the other children. She was always watching. Quietly, intently, like something ancient lived inside her. Mama Ejima kept her hidden from the village as much as she could, claiming illness whenever the women of Umuokiri came to check on her. But children talk, and soon whispers began again about a girl who spoke to animals, whose eyes changed colors under the moonlight, and who was often seen walking into the aji tree forest barefoot and alone. But the most terrifying rumor came from the lips of Mkem, the 7-year-old son of the village palm wine tapper. He claimed he had followed Adama into the forest out of curiosity. There, beneath the whispering tree, a gnarled, ancient Irako said to be cursed, he saw her seated in the soil, whispering to something hidden in the shadows. It was a giant snake, he swore. It was bigger than the shrine's pillars. And it was listening to her, like she was its queen. The Igui summoned Mama Ejima once again, demanding to see the child. But she refused. "She is just a child," she pleaded. "She is mine. She has harmed no one." Yet the evidence was mounting. Chickens were disappearing. Crops were wilting. The river that flowed behind Mama Ejima's compound turned black for a full day before returning to normal. No one could explain it, but everyone believed they knew the cause. That same week, Adama walked into the village square alone for the first time. Her skin was glowing under the morning sun, an eerie golden sheen like polished bronze. Her hair had grown long, full, and jet black, flowing down her back like a curtain. Her eyes were as sharp and silver as a full moon. She wore a white wrapper, with a snake coiled once again around her left wrist, the same black serpent she was born with. Silence fell as she approached the shrine of the ancestors. Even the elders stood speechless. Then she knelt before the Ofo staff and placed her palm on the sacred stone beside it. "I will not hurt you," she said quietly, "unless you try to hurt me." The snake hissed, and the ground trembled slightly beneath her. Suddenly, the sacred stone cracked down the middle, a sign only seen once before in Umuokiri's ancient history, hundreds of years ago, during the Serpent War between the forest priestess and the Igwi's great ancestor. That night, Mama Ejima beat her chest and wept bitterly, cried before the river goddess, begging for her daughter to be taken back or cleansed. But Adama, now only 3, stood at the edge of the forest, watching the stars. And the whispering tree called to her again. "Come, child," it hummed in the wind. "Your father is waiting." The mystery will deepen, and a dark secret from Mama Ejima's past will be revealed. The rains came early that year. It poured for 7 days and 7 nights in Umuokiri. Thunder cracked like drums of war, and lightning danced across the sky like angry spirits. Crops drowned in water, roofs caved in, and the river behind Mama Ejima's hut overflowed, flooding her compound. But it wasn't the rain that frightened the villagers. It was what the rain uncovered. On the 7th night, a group of young men had gone to check the riverbank after hearing strange howling noises. There, stuck in the mud, they found a wooden calabash half buried in the ground, one that clearly belonged to a woman. The calabash was old, covered in markings that glowed faintly when touched. It was sealed with red cloth and tied with a serpent scale. Out of curiosity or foolishness, Obinna, the son of one of the elders, untied it. The wind stopped. The air thickened. And out of the calabash came a voice. A woman's voice, singing a lullaby in a language no one had heard in centuries. Then a gust of wind burst forth from the mouth of the calabash and threw the boys to the ground. That night, Obinna began to convulse. His eyes turned white. His tongue twisted, and he began speaking in the ancient Atuta dialect, long forgotten by the people of Umuokiri. She carries the blood of the cursed line, the daughter of Ezenwanyi Eek, the one who once loved a god. The Igwi was summoned, so were the high priests. The calabash was brought before the elders, and after hours of chanting and invoking the ancestors, the truth emerged, a truth Mama Ejima had buried for years. 20 years ago, before she married her husband, Mama Ejima had gone deep into the Aji forest to seek help from the spirit world. She had been barren. No medicine worked. No priest could help her. But the whispering tree had whispered to her, and it led her to the river shrine of Ezenwanyi Eek, the forbidden water goddess known for seducing mortals and birthing cursed children. There, Ejima made a pact in desperation. She asked for a child, and the goddess had answered, but it came with a price. "Your child will be born with my mark. She will not belong to man nor spirit. She will be caught in between, and on her 7th birthday she will return to me, unless the chain is broken with blood." Mama Ejima, desperate and blinded by grief, agreed. She sealed the pact in the calabash and buried it at the river's edge, praying it would never be found. But now, the gods had revealed her secret. The entire village turned against her. "She has cursed us all," the people cried. "Her child is the snake's bride. She brought this evil upon us." The Igwi ordered Mama Ejima to appear before the council the next morning. But when the guards arrived at her compound at dawn, Mama Ejima was gone. So was Adanma. No footprints, no scent, only a serpent's trail leading into the forest. And scrawled on the wall of the hut, written in charcoal, were 4 chilling words. You could not stop fate. For 3 days, Omuokiri was silent. The air was heavy with dread. Chickens refused to crow. The village market stood empty. Even the drums in the square, which once beat for weddings, births, and harvests, were still. The people knew the forest had claimed Adanma and her mother. Some prayed they had run to another village. Others whispered darker theories, that they had been taken into the belly of the serpent god. But far beyond the reach of human eyes, deep within the forest where no hunter dared go, Adanma stood before a throne carved into the roots of the whispering tree. Mama Ejima lay unconscious beside her body limp and soaked in river water. Before them was a presence. He was not a man, not entirely. His skin shimmered like polished obsidian. His eyes were emerald slits. His hair moved like rivers of shadow, and a hooded python coiled around his shoulders like a living cloak. Easnake, the Serpent King. He had once walked among men as a forgotten god, worshipped, feared, and powerful. But when the kingdoms of man began to rise and iron tools desecrated the forests, he was betrayed by the very priestess who once loved him. Adora, the blood ancestor of Mama Ejima. That betrayal had sealed his power into the roots of the whispering tree. Until Adanma was born, until his bloodline was reborn in her. You are my daughter, he said, his voice a hiss and a hum at once. Not by flesh, but by curse. Your soul carries my fire. Your hand bears my mark. You are the chain that binds me, and the key that will set me free. Adanma did not flinch. She stood without fear. I know, she said. You've been calling me since I was in my mother's womb. Mama Ejima stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and when she saw the serpent god before her, she began to sob. Please, please take me instead. She is only a child. The Serpent King regarded her coldly. Flesh cannot bargain what is already mine. You sealed your daughter's fate with your blood, just as your ancestors sealed mine. But there is still a choice. He raised a clawed hand, and the ground split open to reveal a pool of dark water, shimmering, thick, and alive with spirits. Visions danced on its surface. Omuokiri in flames, children screaming, the river turning to venom. If she stays here, he continued, she will become queen of the underforest. All creatures will obey her. The curse will consume her completely. And I shall rise again. And if she returns, Mama Ejima asked desperately, she will live a mortal life. But her presence will bring death. The forest spirits will hunt her. The gods will not forget. And her 7th birthday will be her last. Silence fell. Adanma looked into the pool. Her silver eyes flashed. I want to choose, she said softly. But not now. Let me go back. Let me live among them. And if they still hate me when I turn 7, I will come back willingly. The Serpent King tilted his head, amused. Very well, but only once. You will return to the land of men. You will see their hearts. If they welcome you, the curse shall sleep. If they betray you, his voice dropped to a whisper. The forest shall awaken in fire and fangs. He struck the earth with his staff. The pool vanished. Mama Ejima and Adanma disappeared in a swirl of serpent scales. They reappeared at the foot of the whispering tree. It was evening. The mist rolled in again, and the birds screamed warnings into the fading light. Adanma looked at her mother. They will not welcome us, Mama. Mama Ejima clutched her tightly. Then we will make them afraid to harm you. That night, the sky bled red again. The drums beat for war. But this time, it was not the forest calling. It was Adama. They returned at dawn. Adama and Mama Ejima walked back into Muokiri, barefoot, wet with dew, and cloaked in silence. The villagers froze at the sight. Women grabbed their children. Men reached for machetes. And the Igui, standing at the head of the palace square, shouted, "Seize them!" But none dared move, because behind the girl, slithering across the earth like a silent army, were snakes, hundreds of them, black and gleaming, coiled in the shadows. They did not hiss. They did not strike. They simply watched, waiting for a reason to defend her. "I am not your enemy," Adama said calmly, "but I will not beg to live." The Igui trembled. The priests gathered, led by Dibian Wachnamir, the oldest and most powerful seer in the land. He stepped forward, lifting a carved staff wrapped in cowries. "She is a child of dual spirits," he declared. "Part mortal, part serpent god. She is not to be killed, but she must be cleansed." "Cleansed how?" Mama Ejima asked warily, holding her daughter close. "We will invoke the ancestors," Dibia said. "We will enter her spirit in the sacred chamber beneath the Ofo shrine. If the gods permit, her bond to the serpent realm can be broken, and she can become fully human." The crowd murmured. The Igui nodded slowly. "Let it be done. If she is not cleansed, she must not live among us." Mama Ejima hesitated, but Adama, ever calm, ever wise beyond her years, simply nodded. "I am ready." That night, under a blood moon, the ritual began. The chamber beneath the Ofo shrine had not been opened in generations. Lit only by red candles and lined with bones of ancient priests, the sacred cave trembled as Adama was led inside, surrounded by the 12 spiritual elders of the land. Dibia and Wachnamir began to chant. They formed a circle, and Adama sat in the center, her eyes closed, the serpent still coiled around her left wrist. Incense filled the air. Strange drums beat from nowhere. And slowly, her body began to rise into the air. Suddenly, she screamed. But it was not a scream of pain. It was rage. The ground beneath the shrine cracked open, and a cold wind blew out the candles. From the shadows, a second voice emerged, a woman's voice, rich and sorrowful. "You cannot break what was never yours to bind." The priests fell to the ground. Their eyes rolled white, and then the vision began. One by one, each elder saw the truth. They saw Mama Ejima's ancestor, Adora, once a high priestess, who had loved Eznake, the Serpent King. They saw her betrayal, her sealing of his power into the whispering tree. They saw the generations of women born cursed to carry his blood. They saw themselves, the people of Umuokiri, laughing, dancing, and celebrating that betrayal. And they saw what was coming. Flames, snakes, and death. The vision ended abruptly when Dibia and Wachnamir collapsed, bleeding from a nose. "She cannot be cleansed," he gasped. "She is no longer between worlds. She is becoming something else." Then came the second betrayal. Elder Abika, greedy for power and desperate to end the fear, lunged forward with a dagger, shouting, "Then let her die before she becomes a god." Mama Ejima ran forward to shield her child. The blade struck her instead. Silence, then blood, then chaos. Adama's scream shook the earth. The shrine walls cracked. And from every crack, from every corner of the village, the snakes came. They poured into the square, massive, ancient, hissing in fury. But they did not attack. Instead, they surrounded Mama Ejima's body. And when Adama looked up, tears streaming down her face, she whispered a single word. "Enough." The snakes obeyed. They slithered back into the forest. And Adama, walked out of the shrine alone. Her serpent now coiled around her neck like a crown. She was no longer a child. She was something else entirely. They buried Mama Ejima beneath the whispering tree. No ceremony, no chants, only silence. Adama sat beside the grave for 3 nights and 3 days without speaking, eating, or moving. Her serpent lay quietly at her side, its eyes closed, mourning too. On the 4th day, she rose. She was no longer the quiet, observant child the villagers once feared. She stood taller, her eyes no longer silver, but gold, glowing faintly in the dark. Her skin shimmered like oil in moonlight, and her voice, when she spoke, echoed. "I have seen life," she said to the forest. "I have seen betrayal. I have seen love." She turned her gaze to the village of Umuokiri, visible in the distance, smoke rising from their cooking fires, drums echoing as if nothing had changed. But they will never change. Back in Umuokiri, the elders argued in panic. "She cannot be allowed to stay," cried Elder Abika, his hands trembling. "She is a threat to us all." "She has not harmed anyone, except in defense," countered Dibian Watchnamir, now weakened, his staff broken. "Perhaps it is we who are cursed." "Not her." The people were divided. Some pitied her. Others feared her even more. And then came the final omen. A child, a girl named Ngozi, was born at dawn. But she was silent, cold, not breathing, until Adama walked into the square, her feet bare and stained with forest soil. She approached the dead baby, cradled in her mother's arms, and without speaking, placed her serpent-marked hand on the child's chest. The baby gasped and cried. She had brought the child back to life. For a brief moment, Umuokiri was still. Then, slowly, the people knelt. All except the Igui. "No," he roared. "This is witchcraft. You will not rule us, serpent child." He drew his ceremonial sword. But before he could move, the earth opened beneath him. 1,000 snakes emerged from the cracks, not to strike, but to form, rising into the shape of a throne that pulsed, hissed, and gleamed. Adama climbed it slowly. She turned to the people. "I asked for your love. You gave me your fear. I asked to belong. You made me an outcast. I asked for peace. You gave me a blade." She paused. "Now, you will kneel." And they did. The clouds parted. From above, the full moon shone directly on her. A second serpent descended from the heavens, a great golden one, and wrapped itself gently around her waist. Then came the voice of Easnake, deep and proud. "Rise, my daughter. The serpent crown is yours." From that day onward, Umuokiri changed. It was no longer ruled by the Igui, but by the girl born with a snake in her hand. The whispering tree bloomed with silver leaves. The forest grew darker but safer. No war came near. No plague touched the people. Children were named after her. And once a year, on the night of the red moon, the villagers would leave offerings beneath the great tree, whispering prayers of gratitude. But deep in the sacred grove, hidden from mortal eyes, sat a throne of living serpents. And on it, Adama ruled, forever young, forever watching, half goddess, half girl, the last of the cursed line and the first of a new kingdom, a kingdom of both man and myth.